The elevator doors opened on the 5th floor, and I saw my husband kissing my best friend with the same mouth that had thanked me 20 minutes earlier for saving his career. For a second, my body forgot how to move. I stood there with his silver laptop pressed against my chest, still warm from the passenger seat of my car, still carrying the presentation he swore would change our lives. The hallway light behind them was soft and expensive, the kind hotels use to make lies look elegant. In the mirrored wall beside the elevator, I saw everything twice: my husband's hand sliding around her waist, her fingers tangled in the back of his hair, the little gold necklace resting against her throat. The necklace I had given her on her birthday. My best friend, the woman who had cried on my couch after her miscarriage. The woman who had called me sister in every wedding toast and every drunken Sunday brunch. The woman who had sat at my kitchen island 3 nights earlier, sipping my wine and asking me, with a straight face, "Are you and Daniel doing okay?" They were not startled. They were not confused. They were not two people caught in a moment that had gone too far. They looked comfortable. Practiced. Like this hallway had seen them before. The elevator doors started sliding shut, and instinct moved before heartbreak did. I lifted my phone and took one picture. Then another. Then a third. The flash was off. My hands were shaking so hard the screen blurred, but the mirror helped me. The mirror saw what they thought I never would. Daniel never turned around. Melissa never pulled away. They were too busy betraying me to notice I was standing 12 feet away holding the laptop he had begged me to bring. The doors closed. The elevator carried me up to the 6th floor, even though I had not pressed anything. I stood there listening to the hum of cables and my own breathing, my reflection staring back at me like a stranger. My name is Claire Bennett. I was 41 years old that night. I lived in Chicago with a husband people called brilliant, charming, disciplined, destined for partnership. Daniel Bennett was a senior attorney at Whitaker, Sloan & Pierce, a downtown law firm with glass walls, quiet money, and partners who spoke like they were born inside boardrooms. For 12 years, I had believed I was his partner too. Not legally. Not professionally. Not in any way the world could measure. But in the invisible way wives are often expected to be partners: the calendar keeper, the dinner planner, the patient listener, the one who remembers his mother's birthday and edits his speeches at midnight, the one who absorbs pressure so he can walk into rooms looking effortless. I worked full-time as a risk analyst for a national insurance company. I was good at my job. I caught mistakes that saved companies millions. I could read a contract and smell trouble before anyone else noticed a comma was missing. But in Daniel's world, I was introduced as my wife, Claire, the calm one. At a firm dinner 2 months earlier, he had lifted his bourbon and joked in front of 14 lawyers and their spouses, "Claire doesn't need corporate stress. Managing me is already a full-time career." Everyone laughed. Melissa laughed too. I smiled because that was what I had trained myself to do. Smile. Smooth things over. Make humiliation look like loyalty. That evening had started in our condo in Lincoln Park. I had made lemon chicken because Daniel said he needed something light before his major board presentation. He had been chasing a partnership vote for years, and this was supposed to be his final test: a private meeting with the executive board of Whitaker, Sloan & Pierce and one of the firm's largest clients. He was pacing the kitchen, checking his watch, snapping at me because his tie would not sit right. "Claire, where's the blue folder?" "On the counter, next to your keys." "No, the other blue folder. You put that one in your briefcase this morning." He exhaled like I had created the problem by solving it. I walked over, fixed his tie, and brushed lint off his shoulder. "You're going to do great," I said. He looked down at me and softened. That was the thing about Daniel. He knew exactly when to give just enough warmth to make the cold feel accidental. "I don't know what I'd do without you," he said, kissing my forehead. "You keep my whole life from falling apart." At the time, it sounded like love. Later, it sounded like a job description. At 7:05 p.m., my phone rang while I was loading dishes into the dishwasher. "Baby," Daniel said, breathless. "I did something stupid." My stomach tightened immediately. "What happened?" "I left my laptop on my desk at home. The presentation file is on it. I swear I copied it to the drive, but the final version is on the laptop. I need it." "Where are you?" "The Langford Hotel. Downtown. Just drop it at the front desk. I'll owe you dinner anywhere you want." The Langford was one of those old luxury hotels near the river, all brass lamps and marble floors and doormen in dark coats. Daniel used to take me there on anniversaries before he started calling romance expensive theater. "What room?" I asked. "Not a room. Conference level. They'll know. Whitaker board meeting." I glanced at his laptop sitting exactly where he had left it, open on the home office desk beside a half-empty glass of water. "I'm leaving now." "You're saving me," he said. "Seriously, Claire. I love you." I grabbed the laptop, my purse, and a coat. I drove through traffic with one hand on the wheel and one hand occasionally touching the computer beside me, as if the machine were a fragile organ I was transporting for surgery. I remember thinking how good it felt to be needed. That was the saddest part. At the Langford, a young front desk clerk with auburn hair and a name tag that read Kelsey smiled politely as I approached. "I'm dropping this off for Daniel Bennett," I said. "Whitaker, Sloan and Pierce board meeting?" She typed for a few seconds, then frowned. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I don't see a board meeting under that firm tonight. Maybe under Bennett? Or Whitaker?" She typed again. Her professional smile thinned. "There's no conference event with that name." I felt the first drop inside me. Not a break. Not yet. More like the tiny sound ice makes before the whole lake cracks. "He told me to leave this at reception." Kelsey glanced down at the laptop, then back at her screen. "There is a Daniel Bennett checked in," she said carefully. "Room 518. My hand went numb around the laptop. "Room 518? "Yes, ma'am." "Is anyone else on the reservation?" She hesitated. That hesitation told me more than the screen did. "I'm sorry. I can't disclose guest information." I nodded like a normal woman receiving normal information. "Of course." Then I walked to the elevators. I don't remember pressing 5. I remember watching the numbers glow one at a time. 2, 3, 4. I remember my own face in the elevator mirror, pale and confused, still wearing the small pearl earrings Daniel liked because he said they made me look classy but not loud. The doors opened. And there they were. Daniel and Melissa. My husband and my best friend. The people who had stood beside me at my father's funeral. The people whose names were threaded through the last decade of my life. Kissing outside room 518 like the rest of the world had been politely asked not to exist. After the elevator took me to 6, I stepped out into an empty hallway and leaned against the wall. A maid's cart sat near the ice machine. Somewhere, someone laughed behind a door. The world continued, rude and ordinary. I looked at the photos. In the first, Daniel's face was half hidden, but his wedding band was visible. In the second, Melissa's profile was clear, the necklace bright against her skin. In the third, the mirror caught both of them fully. The mirror did not care how many years I had loved them. I went back down to the lobby. Kelsey saw my face and came around the desk immediately. "Do you need to sit down?" I nodded once. She led me to a quiet corner near the bar, away from the grand staircase and the guests checking in with rolling luggage. I set Daniel's laptop on the little round table. My phone lay beside it, the 3 photos open like evidence in a trial. Kelsey brought me water. "I'm sorry," she said softly. I almost laughed. A stranger had shown me more kindness in 2 minutes than my husband had in months. "She's my best friend," I said. Kelsey's face changed in that way women's faces change when the story is bad enough that politeness becomes useless. "I'm really sorry." I didn't cry. That frightened me more than crying would have. Instead, something cold and precise settled in my chest. Melissa was married too. Her husband, Grant Caldwell, owned Caldwell Urban Development, a construction and real estate company that had become one of Whitaker, Sloan and Pierce's biggest accounts. Daniel had been assigned to Grant's contracts 3 years ago. He reviewed zoning disputes, vendor agreements, investor filings, litigation exposure. He knew Grant's financial vulnerabilities better than almost anyone. So this was not just adultery. This was a lawyer sleeping with the wife of an active client. A client whose business helped fund Daniel's rise. I unlocked my phone and opened my email. My fingers stopped shaking. I searched for Patricia Whitaker, managing partner, ethics committee chair, Daniel's biggest supporter and the woman who would decide whether he became partner. I started a message. Then I stopped. Not yet. First, I called Grant. He answered on the 4th ring. "Claire," he said, surprised. "Everything okay?" I stared at the chandelier above the lobby bar. Hundreds of little lights hanging from brass arms, shining over rich people's secrets. "No," I said. "I'm at the Langford Hotel. I just saw Melissa kissing Daniel outside room 518. There was silence. Not confusion. Not disbelief. Silence like a man hearing the last piece of a puzzle click into place. "Do you have proof?" he asked. "Yes." "Send it." I sent the 3 photos. The typing bubble appeared. Vanished. Appeared again. Then Grant called back. His voice was different. "Claire," he said, each word flat and controlled, "do not confront them. Grant, do not give them a chance to make you look unstable. People like them depend on us reacting loudly so they can rewrite the story." I closed my eyes. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to make 2 calls. One to my attorney. One to the firm's general counsel. In 30 minutes, room 518 becomes the most expensive room Daniel Bennett ever booked." I looked at the laptop on the table. Then I looked at my wedding ring. For the first time all night, I smiled. Not because anything was funny. Because I finally understood something Daniel had forgotten. I was not the calm one. I was the one who knew how to handle risk. Grant did not raise his voice. That scared me more than anger would have. Daniel has had access to my contracts for 3 years, he said. If he's sleeping with my wife, this is not only personal. This is exposure. I know, I said. Where are they now? Room 518. I still have his laptop. They don't know I saw them. Good. Keep it that way for a few more minutes. Kelsey returned with black coffee and a folded piece of hotel stationery. She glanced over her shoulder before speaking. I shouldn't get involved, she whispered. But hallway cameras cover the 5th floor. Footage is kept for 30 days. If an attorney requests it properly, management has a procedure. I looked up at her. Why are you helping me? Her eyes flickered toward the elevators. Because my mother spent 9 years being told she was crazy until she found proof. I swallowed hard. Thank you. She nodded and walked away before either of us could say anything that might make her job harder. I took off my rings. The engagement ring Daniel had given me at Navy Pier under fireworks I later learned he had not planned. The wedding band we chose together because he said plain gold looked serious. They left pale marks on my finger, little ghosts of a life I thought I had. I slid both rings into a hotel envelope and wrote one word across the front. Returned. Then I carried the laptop to the elevator. The ride to 5 felt slower than grief. When the doors opened, the hallway was empty. Room 518 sat at the far end under warm sconces. Behind the door, I heard Melissa laugh. That laugh had filled my kitchen every Christmas Eve. That laugh had cracked through tears after her pregnancy loss. That laugh had called me at 1 a.m. when she thought Grant was pulling away. I had answered every time. Now it came muffled through a hotel door I had never been invited to open. I placed Daniel's laptop carefully against the wall beside room 518. I set the envelope on top. I did not knock. I did not scream. I did not give them my pain so they could edit it into a story about my temper. Back in the lobby, I sat at the same table and opened Facebook. My hands were steady now. I uploaded the clearest photo, the one where the mirror showed Daniel and Melissa wrapped around each other outside the room. I cropped enough that the hotel name was not visible, but the wedding rings were. Daniel's hand. Melissa's necklace. The polished door number in the corner, 518. I wrote, sometimes you carry your husband's forgotten laptop to the hotel where he claims he has a board meeting, and the elevator opens on the truth. Sometimes the mirror is more honest than the people you trusted. I did not tag them. I did not name them. I scheduled it for 8 p.m. Then I texted Melissa, next time, check the mirror. I scheduled that message for 7:58. At 7:50, Daniel texted me. Everything is going great. Might run late. Love you. I stared at those words until they stopped looking like language. Love you. How easy lying had become for him. How automatic. Like breathing. Like signing his name. I replied, laptop delivered. Enjoy your night. At 7:58, my message went to Melissa. At 8 o'clock, the post went live. At 8:02, Daniel called. At 8:03, Melissa called. At 8:04, Daniel called again. I turned my phone face down. At 8:07, Grant texted, joint accounts frozen. My attorney is on the way. Pulling all Caldwell business from Whitaker tomorrow unless they remove Daniel tonight. At 8:11, I forwarded the photos, timestamp, hotel location, and Kelsey's note about hallway cameras to Patricia Whitaker. Subject line, urgent ethics concern involving Daniel Bennett and active client spouse. My email was short. Clean. No drama. Mrs. Whitaker, I am Daniel Bennett's wife. At approximately 7:18 p.m. tonight, I personally witnessed Daniel Bennett kissing Melissa Caldwell outside room 518 at the Langford Hotel. Melissa Caldwell is the wife of Grant Caldwell, owner of Caldwell Urban Development, an active firm client whose legal matters Daniel has handled for 3 years. Attached are 3 photographs taken by me from the elevator. The hotel has hallway cameras covering the 5th floor and maintains footage for 30 days. I understand the personal nature of this matter. I am contacting you because this appears to involve a conflict of interest, professional misconduct, and potential client exposure. Claire Bennett. I read it twice. Then I pressed send. At 8:16, Patricia called. Mrs. Bennett, she said. No warmth. No cruelty. Just law firm steel. I received your email. Yes. Are you certain of what you witnessed? I saw my husband kissing Melissa Caldwell outside a hotel room. I took the pictures myself. You understand this could have serious consequences for Daniel's partnership candidacy. I do. I need to ask whether this report is motivated by a marital dispute. There it was. The first attempt to make pain look irrational. I sat straighter. I am a risk analyst, I said. I understand the difference between marital betrayal and professional exposure. Your attorney is romantically involved with the wife of an active client whose contracts and disputes he manages. You should verify the hotel footage, review his calendar, and check for undisclosed communication. A pause. Then Patricia said, quieter, we will begin an internal review immediately. Good. Are you safe? That question almost broke me. I looked toward the elevators. I think I am now. When I hung up, the elevator opened. Daniel stepped out first. His shirt was buttoned wrong. His hair was damp at the temples. The face he wore was not guilt. It was panic wearing an expensive suit. Melissa followed him, pale and shaking, clutching my envelope with the rings inside. Claire, Daniel said, moving toward me. We need to talk. No, I said. You need to leave me alone. It's not what you think. I laughed once. One sharp sound. You're a lawyer, Daniel. Please don't insult both of us with a line that lazy. Melissa was crying. Of course she was crying. Melissa cried beautifully. Her tears always arrived at the exact moment accountability entered the room. Claire, please, she said. Let me explain. I looked at the necklace on her throat. You explained enough when I saw you wearing my gift while kissing my husband. Her hand flew to the chain like it had burned her. Daniel lowered his voice. Take down the post. No, you don't understand what you're doing. I understand exactly what I'm doing. That's why you're scared. The lobby doors opened, and Grant walked in. He looked older than he had at Thanksgiving. Not weaker. Just stripped of something. He wore work boots, dark jeans, and the expression of a man who had already done the math and hated every number. Grant, Melissa whispered. He stopped several feet away. Do not call me like nothing happened. Daniel stepped forward, palms out, trying to become the calm professional again. Grant, this is a private matter. Grant looked at him with a kind of disgust that made the air colder. No, he said. It's legal, financial, and professional. And as of tomorrow morning, you will no longer represent my company in any capacity. Daniel's face changed. That was when he understood. Not when he saw me. Not when Melissa cried. Not when my rings landed outside his hotel door. When he realized his career was bleeding. Grant, don't make a business decision emotionally. Grant smiled without humor. Funny. I was going to advise you not to sleep with a client's wife emotionally. Kelsey appeared with a man in a dark suit, probably the night manager. He looked nervous but formal. Mrs. Bennett, he said, I understand there may be a legal request regarding hallway footage. The hotel will comply with proper process. Daniel turned on me. What did you do? I picked up my purse. The same thing you did, I said. I made a decision. Mine just didn't need a room key. He looked at the people around us. Me. Melissa. Grant. Kelsey. The manager. The lobby guests pretending not to watch. For years, Daniel had controlled the room. Every room. He knew how to charm, redirect, minimize, reframe. But that night, the room belonged to the truth, and the truth had no interest in his argument. I walked out before he could say my name again. Outside, the Chicago air was cold enough to hurt. I stood under the hotel awning and took my first full breath in what felt like 12 years. My phone buzzed again and again. Daniel. Melissa. Daniel. Unknown number. Daniel. I got into my car and drove home. Not to our home. My home. The condo was quiet when I arrived. Too quiet. His running shoes were by the door. His law journals were stacked on the coffee table. His cologne lingered in the hallway like another lie. I called a locksmith. When the man arrived, he asked, "Lost your keys?" I looked at Daniel's framed law degree on the wall. "No," I said. "Found something." By 11:30 p.m., the locks were changed. I packed Daniel's clothes into 5 black contractor bags and set them in the hallway outside the unit. I placed his watch box on top. I kept nothing that would require him to enter. At midnight, I sat on the floor of the living room, my phone lighting up beside me. 42 missed calls. 16 texts. One from Melissa, "You're destroying everything." I stared at that sentence for a long time. Then I replied with the only word she deserved, "No. I stopped protecting what you destroyed." At 1:12 a.m., Grant called. "I'm sorry," he said. "You don't have to apologize." "I do, maybe not for this. But for not seeing it sooner." There were signs. I ignored them because I trusted her. I leaned my head against the couch. There were signs with Daniel too. We sat in silence, two people connected by the ugliest discovery of our lives. Then Grant said, "My attorney found something." My stomach tightened. "What?" "Daniel billed my company for private dinners with Melissa. He marked them as client strategy meetings." I closed my eyes. "Of course. He used me to pay for her," Grant said, voice low. "And maybe he used your marriage to hide it." I thought the night had already reached the bottom. Then Grant added, "Claire, there's more. Some of the documents Daniel handled for my company went missing from our secure portal last month. We thought it was a vendor issue. The room seemed to tilt. What are you saying? I'm saying this may not have been just an affair. He paused. And if Daniel gave Melissa access to anything, both of them may have done more than cheat. My mouth went dry. On the wall, Daniel's law degree looked down at me from its frame. For the first time, I wondered if I had married a liar. Or if I had married a criminal. The next morning, Daniel was sitting on the curb outside my condo building with his suit wrinkled, his tie loose, and his laptop balanced on his knees like a dead animal. I did not open the door. I spoke through the intercom. Leave. Claire, please, he said. His voice cracked in a way I had once found human. I made a mistake. A mistake is sending an email to the wrong person. Booking a hotel room, lying about a board meeting, sleeping with my best friend, and billing her husband for your dates is not a mistake. It's a system. Silence. Then he said, too fast, who told you about the billing? There it was. Not denial. Confirmation. I almost thanked him for being arrogant enough to panic out loud. Go home, Daniel. This is my home. No. This is the place where your clothes are waiting in trash bags. His voice hardened. You can't lock me out of my own condo. My attorney can explain temporary possession. So can the police if you keep buzzing. You're being vindictive. I looked at the new lock on my door. No. I'm being awake. I ended the call. At 9:20 a.m., Patricia Whitaker called. Mrs. Bennett, she said, I'm going to speak carefully. We verified the hotel footage. We also reviewed internal calendars, billing records, and client communication logs. I sat on the edge of the bed. And Daniel Bennett has been placed on immediate administrative leave pending termination review. His partnership candidacy has been withdrawn. The air left my lungs. Patricia continued, we found multiple entries billed to Caldwell Urban Development that appear inconsistent with legitimate legal work. We are notifying the client and preserving documents. I thought of Grant's voice at 1:12 a.m., there may be missing files, I said. Another pause. What missing files? I told her what Grant had told me. Patricia's tone changed completely. Thank you. Do not discuss this with Daniel. Do not allow him access to shared devices. Change passwords. Preserve all messages. I already changed the locks. Good. Then she said something I did not expect. Mrs. Bennett, many people react when they are hurt. You documented. That may have prevented a much larger cover-up. After we hung up, I sat still for a long time. The world had not healed. But it had shifted. At 10:05, Grant called. My forensic team found downloads from Melissa's personal tablet, he said. Files from a confidential development bid. Daniel's login was used. I stood up. Could someone else have used his login? Maybe. But the access happened during dates he billed to my company. Daniel wouldn't be that stupid. The sentence came out automatically, wife reflex still alive. Grant's laugh was bitter. He was stupid enough to kiss my wife outside an elevator. That was the first twist I had not seen coming. The affair was not the deepest betrayal. It was the door that opened to the rest of it. By afternoon, my lawyer, Denise Harper, was sitting across from me at my dining table, sliding papers from a leather folder. Daniel is going to try to make this emotional, she said. He'll say you humiliated him publicly. He'll say you damaged his career. He may ask for half your savings. He cheated. That matters morally. Financially, we need documentation. I opened my laptop and showed her years of household spreadsheets. Every mortgage transfer. Every utility payment. Every credit card balance. Every business dinner Daniel had claimed was reimbursed while our joint account covered his personal expenses. Denise looked at me over her glasses. You kept all this? I'm a risk analyst. For the first time in 24 hours, someone smiled at me. Then let's manage risk. The divorce became ugly fast because Daniel had nothing left but ugliness. He sent flowers. Then threats. Then apologies. Then a letter through his attorney accusing me of reputational sabotage. He claimed I had used social media to destroy his employment prospects. Denise responded with 14 pages of documented conflict of interest, billing irregularities, hotel footage, and evidence preservation notices. Daniel stopped sending flowers. Melissa tried calling me 31 times in 2 weeks. I never answered. Then she sent a voice message. Claire, I know you hate me. I hate myself too. But you have to understand, I was lonely. Grant was always working. Daniel listened. We never meant to hurt you. I deleted it. People who say they never meant to hurt you usually mean they never meant to get caught. The second twist came 3 weeks later. Grant called while I was at work. Are you sitting down? He asked. I hate questions that start like that. My investigators found the missing bid files. Melissa forwarded them to a private email account. I closed my office door. Why? Because her brother owns a competing subcontracting firm. I went cold. Daniel knew? We don't know yet. But his login was used to access the files, and he was in the room with her on at least 2 of those nights. I remembered Melissa at my kitchen island, asking Daniel casual questions about Grant's company while I poured more wine. So how big is that River West project now? Are investors nervous about the zoning fight? Does Grant still think Northline is underbidding? At the time, it sounded like a wife complaining about business dinners. Now it sounded like fishing. Grant, I said slowly, Melissa used to ask Daniel about your projects in front of me. I know, he said. I found texts. He sent me screenshots. Melissa, if I can get Mark the bid range, he can survive the quarter. Daniel, you're asking me to risk everything. Melissa, I'm asking you to help me save my brother. You said you loved me. Daniel, not tonight. Melissa, then why am I in this hotel? My hands shook. There he was. Not innocent. Not fully forced. Not merely seduced. Daniel had known where the edge was and walked toward it because a woman made him feel powerful. Grant's company filed civil claims. Whitaker terminated Daniel and reported him to the state bar. Melissa's brother's firm lost contracts and became the subject of an investigation. The scandal never became national news, but in Chicago legal and development circles, it spread like smoke under a door. Daniel's perfect life did not explode. It collapsed in stages, each floor giving way under the weight of what he had built. Meanwhile, I kept living. At first, living felt rude. How could the sun rise when my marriage was in pieces? How could people buy coffee, complain about parking, laugh on sidewalks, when I was walking around with a hole where trust used to be? But life is not polite enough to stop for heartbreak. I sold the dining table where Melissa had eaten my food while studying my marriage. I painted the bedroom a deep blue Daniel would have called too dramatic. I turned his home office into a room full of plants, books, and one huge desk that belonged only to me. No law books. No tie clips. No framed awards. Just air. At work, my director called me in after reviewing a crisis report I had written for a client. Claire, she said, the way you organize evidence, timeline risk, and communication is unusually strong. We're opening a senior role in enterprise risk management. I want you to apply. I almost said no. Then I heard Daniel's old joke in my head. Managing me is already a full-time career. I applied. I got the role. For the first time, my ability to keep things from falling apart was not being used to hold up a man who did not respect me. It was building something with my name on it. Grant and I kept talking because lawsuits require communication. At first, our calls were practical. Dates. Documents. Attorney requests. Then one day, after a deposition, he asked if I wanted coffee. I almost said no to that too. Not because I disliked him. Because I was afraid of any comfort that came from the same wreckage. We met at a small place near the river. He looked tired but calmer. We talked about court for 10 minutes, then about weather, then about the strange grief of missing someone who had never existed the way you thought they did. I don't know if I miss Melissa, he admitted, turning his coffee cup between both hands. Or the version of my life where I trusted her. I nodded. I miss being the kind of person who didn't check mirrors. He looked at me then, really looked, and something passed between us that was not romance. Not yet. It was recognition. 2 survivors in the same flood. Months passed. Daniel's license was suspended pending review. He found contract work at a small suburban office that handled landlord disputes and parking claims. I knew because he emailed me once from a new address to say, I hope you're happy. I did not answer. Melissa lost her marriage, most of her friends, and the beautiful victim costume she kept trying to wear. Grant's attorneys settled part of the civil case quietly, but not gently. Her brother's company folded by spring. The revenge people imagine is loud. Screaming. Slapping. Throwing clothes from balconies. Mine was quieter. I let records speak. I let cameras speak. I let invoices speak. I let their own messages speak. And every time the truth spoke, Daniel and Melissa had less room to lie. Almost 1 year after the Langford, Melissa showed up at my building. The doorman called first. There's a Melissa Caldwell here asking to see you. My first instinct was no. My second instinct was curiosity. I went downstairs. She was thinner. No makeup. Hair pulled back. She held a small paper bag with both hands. 5 minutes, she said. We can stand here. She nodded, looking around the lobby like she had expected my life to look destroyed. It did not. I'm in therapy, she said. Good. I needed to apologize. No, I said. You wanted to apologize. I don't need it. Her eyes filled. I became someone horrible. You chose something horrible over and over again. Don't make it sound like weather. She flinched. For a second, I saw the old Melissa. The friend I had loved. The woman who had curled up under a blanket on my couch after losing a baby. The woman I had defended when other people called her dramatic. That memory hurt more than the affair. Because I had not imagined all of her goodness. She had simply decided it was not enough to stop her. Are you and Grant together? She asked. There it was. The real reason. I felt a clean, fierce calm move through me. Not everything is about punishing you. So you are? We are careful, I said. And kind. And honest. That's more than either of you gave us. Her mouth trembled. He was my husband. And Daniel was mine. She looked down. Then she held out the paper bag. I wanted to give this back. I already knew before I opened it. The gold necklace. My gift. The chain spilled into my palm, light and useless. I can't look at it, she whispered. I dropped it back into the bag and handed it to her. Then throw it away. I don't collect broken symbols. She cried then, not beautifully. Messily. For once, without performance. I really did love you, she said. I believed her. That was the worst part. I know, I said. You just loved yourself more. She left with the bag. I stood in the lobby for a long time after the doors closed, waiting for triumph to arrive. It never did. What came instead was space. A wide, quiet space where rage had been. By winter, Grant and I were no longer only careful. We were something tender. We took it slowly, almost stubbornly. No grand declarations. No rescuing. No pretending betrayal had made us soulmates. We were two people who had learned the cost of ignoring small discomforts, so we respected every pause. The first time he came to my condo for dinner, he brought flowers and blueprints. I need your opinion, he said, spreading plans across my kitchen table. Not because I want free consulting. Because your brain scares me in a useful way. I laughed so hard I almost dropped the salad bowl. Daniel had needed me to keep his life organized while pretending I was simple. Grant asked what I thought and waited for the answer. That is how love began to feel different. Not louder. Cleaner. One night, Daniel appeared outside my building again. This time, I went down because I was not afraid of him anymore. He looked smaller. Not physically, exactly. But reduced, like someone had turned down the volume on his presence. His expensive confidence was gone. His coat was cheap. His eyes were red. I heard about you and Grant, he said. Okay. That's disgusting. I almost smiled. You cheated with his wife in a hotel room. And now you're with him? After the divorce. After the truth. After therapy. After honesty. Notice the order. He stepped closer. The doorman shifted behind the desk. You ruined me, Claire. No, I said. I stopped cleaning up after you. I lost everything. You lost access to things you were using. His jaw tightened. I loved you. No. You loved the way I made your life easier. That's not the same thing. For once, he had no answer. So I gave him the last one. The night I brought your laptop to the Langford, you thought I was saving your career. I was. I carried the last piece of your perfect life right to the door. You were the one who chose what I found there. He looked away. And Daniel? He glanced back. I hope someday you become honest enough to understand that consequences are not revenge. I walked back inside before he could respond. A year and a half after room 518, I passed the Langford Hotel on my way to a meeting. The brass lamps glowed through the windows just like they had that night. Guests moved through the lobby with luggage and secrets. The revolving door turned slowly. I stopped across the street. For a moment, I saw myself again, a woman in pearl earrings, carrying a laptop, believing usefulness was proof of love. A woman who thought a marriage could be saved by delivering one more forgotten thing. I wanted to reach through time and take that laptop from her hands. But then I realized she did not need saving. She needed evidence. She needed the elevator doors to open. Daniel lost his job, his reputation, his partnership, his license for a while, his home, and the comfort of having a wife quietly hold his world together. Melissa lost a husband, a friend, a family, and the story where she was only lonely instead of responsible. Grant lost money, trust, and the illusion that love makes people loyal. I lost a lie. And as painful as truth is, it has one mercy: once it arrives, you can finally stop performing for people who were never protecting you. Today, my condo smells like coffee, wet soil, and the basil plant Grant keeps overwatering. Sometimes he comes over and we cook. Sometimes I stay alone and read in the blue room that used to be Daniel's office. Sometimes silence fills the whole place, and instead of fearing it, I let it sit beside me. Silence no longer means someone is hiding something in the next room. It means peace has room to breathe. I kept the 3 photos in a legal folder for a long time. I never looked at them after the divorce finalized. Evidence has a job, and once it did its job, I did not need to keep feeding my anger. But I remember the mirror. Not because it showed me betrayal. Because it showed me the truth at the exact moment I was strong enough to use it. If there is one thing I learned, it is this: you cannot always stop people from betraying you, but you can refuse to hand them the ending. You can make one call. You can press send. You can let consequences knock on the door they thought was locked. That night, I did not lose my marriage. I recovered my name.